Welcome to my 24th video. I took a week off from work this past week and went to the beach. I find being on the beach looking at the ocean to be most relaxing. I also find this to be a great place for contemplation, and I have a lot of contemplating to do. I find myself having to make seriously life-altering decisions in the coming weeks. Decisions about jobs, finances, schooling, and all these decisions have direct impact on my family. Typically, most of these decisions wouldn't be that hard, but the uncertainty caused by COVID-19, amongst many other things, is making them really difficult. So I have taken the most basic advice I could receive and turned to the Bible for guidance. Because what I need is some wisdom. How do you make good decisions when you have a serious lack of information? I started by taking a look at my favorite book, Proverbs. After all, it is the first book in the Wisdom trilogy. So what did I find? I got the most convoluted, straightforward answer I have ever gotten. So let's begin. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety." Proverbs says something similar in verse 15:22 when it says, "Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors they succeed." The same point is made a third time in Proverbs 12:15, where it says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." So I'm getting that I need to discuss my decisions with others and get some advice so that I can make a good decision. Easy enough. I had already planned to do that. Then I read Proverbs 4:26. "Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure." So from this I'm getting that after I receive the advice, I need to really think about what I was told and compare it to my own thoughts and make my own decision. I am comfortable with all of this because all of this falls into the category, as I understand, logic and reason. I said last week that I need to quit asking questions because every time I do, God gives answers and I don't like them. And this week was no different. Once again, I am being directed to use my emotions. Proverbs 16:9 says, "The heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." That's right, it says the heart of a man, not the mind of a man. So great, now my motives for the decision I make need to be considered. Because Proverbs 21:2 says, "Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart." This points back to Proverbs 16:9 and indicates that the steps the Lord establishes will depend heavily on how he weighs my heart. So to summarize, I am to seek counsel, use that counsel to try and determine God's will, and in my heart desire to follow God's will and do whatever that is. If I had been paying attention, I might have picked up on this earlier because Proverbs 3:6, which just happens to come before any of the verses I have cited so far, says, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." It seems to me that God's idea of a straight path and my idea of a straight path may be slightly different. Sometimes getting counsel and desiring to follow God's will only narrows down the options and doesn't give a clear answer. So, how do you make a big life altering decision then? You gamble. Proverbs 16:33 says, "The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord." So, when in doubt to make a big decision, roll the dice or flip a coin and go with the answer. That is not the sage wisdom I was expecting. Yet in Acts chapter 1, verses 24 through 26, this is precisely what the disciples did to pick a new apostle. Here's what it says. Then they prayed, "Lord, you know everyone's heart. Show us which of these two you have chosen to take over the apostolic ministry which Judas left to go where he belongs." Then they cast lots, and the lot fell to Matthias, so he was added to the 11 apostles. Well, I don't think my decision will have such far reaching consequences as taking over the apostolic ministry, but it could, because in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 11, it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end." To me, this says I will never really know if I made the right decision or not, and that perhaps whatever I decided to do, as long as I sought counsel and tried to determine God's will and acted out of my desire to do God's will, I can't make a wrong decision. Because, like it says in Romans 8:28, we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose.